and I'm going to show you how to make the perfect ham and cheese omelet. First, there are a few supplies that you're going to need before you attempt to make an omelet. Of course, the most important thing is eggs. I prefer to use 3 of them. The next thing you're going to need is a bowl that you will eventually crack and mix the eggs in. Finally, you're going to need a plate that you're going to serve the egg at the end with a fork and a knife. You're also going to need cheese, and in this case it's American cheese. Of course, you're going to need a ham for a ham and egg omelet. I prefer to use honey ham, get it from the deli. We're going to need butter so the omelet doesn't stick to the frying pan. You're also going to need a spatula, and finally pepper for a little bit of seasoning. Last thing you're going to need is a hair tie. First thing you should do is put your hair up, because no one likes hair in their food. To crack an egg, you want to first hold it in your dominant hand, in my case, my right hand. You then want to make sure you have all 5 fingers around it. You're going to tap or bang it against the side of the bowl, not too hard so that the egg crumbles, and not too light so you don't crack the egg. You will now see that there's a crack. What you're going to do is stick both of your thumbs inside and pull away. Before I mix the eggs with my fork, I'm going to double check that I don't have any shells, because no one wants to eat shells. In my case, there's no shells in it, so I can go in and just start beating them. What you want to do is move it in a circular motion so all the eggs and the yolk start to mix together. You don't want big clumps of yolk or big clumps of egg whites. That looks just about right. The next step is turning on the stovetop. It all depends what type of stovetop you have. I have an electric flat top. What you're going to do is put it on medium. In my case, I have to turn it to the right until it hits medium. Your next step is putting the frying pan on top of the stovetop. Make sure the handle is pointed inside the oven or over a counter. If it's out, you might hit it and then bad stuff happens. Next step is to use your butter knife and cut the butter. It varies on how much you want. Preferably, I like a bunch of fattiness in my eggs, so I'm going to use a lot. What you want to do is then wipe it on the side of the frying pan. This will make sure all the butter gets inside the frying pan and not on your stove. Now that the butter is melting, you're going to want to prepare the ham. To prepare the ham, since I have lunch meat, all I need to do is rip it. There's no order, and it depends on what size you want. I preferably don't like the outside, so I'll rip that off. The size I like is this big, so it's all up to you. But in a ripping motion, you want to pull one side in and one side out until you have enough ham to make you satisfied. Now you have a pile of shredded ham, you're going to want to stick it inside the frying pan. It's already cooked, but it tastes better and brings out more flavor if it's heated before you put the eggs on top. You're going to then take your spatula and just stir it around. This process takes about 30 seconds before you put the rest of the ingredients in. Step is to put the eggs on top of the ham. Make sure you re-stir it because the clumps of the yolk might have came together again. Make sure the ham is spread around and not just clumped into one section of the omelet. The process is going to take at least 30 seconds. We are waiting for the bottom portion of the egg to start cooking so it becomes more of solid instead of just a running mass of eggs. Next step is to take your spatula and run it around the side of the pan. This loosens up the cooked egg. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take your spatula, which is again in your dominant hand, and run it down the one side while you tip the frying pan. This will have all the loose egg run to the side and will help it cook faster. You can do this in more than one spot. The next step is to flip it. If you can't flip it, you can always try, but I've had omelets fly through the air and it's not the best sight. To flip it, I'm going to stick my spatula, which is small, so it's going to be harder, and stick it underneath the egg by slowly shimmering it down. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to lift it up while I tilt the pan and just pop it like a pancake. Your next process is adding the cheese. I'm going to use a piece of American. What you want to do is tear it into strips and lay it out evenly over one side of the omelet. What you want to do immediately after is flip the other side over top of the one side that has the cheese. This is going to almost giving the steaming effect, and it will add heat to both sides of the cheese, which will eventually melt it. You might also want to flip it again. When all the cheese is melted, the next step is to put it on a plate and serve it to whoever wants it. Voila! The omelet is done. All that's left is a fork and a knife and a big glass of orange juice.